It's hard to find the matching items with the bracelets, with the earrings. So anytime I was able to find originals, I wanted them. My mom and grandmother told me that I should have called them.
That's funny.
It's so
we have
funny.
it all, Mitchell. You don't have to go far to find this stuff.
Hello and welcome to the Art of Casting Blogcast. I'm Elizabeth Joy Glass.
And I'm one of Tammy Faye's puppets, Spencer Williams. These are getting out of hand.
Oh my gosh, Spencer.
Elizabeth, happy Comic-Con.
Happy Comic-Con. Oh my gosh, so much has come out in the past 24 hours.
I know, I feel unwell. Like I just need to lay in my bed with my cell phone and just keep refreshing Twitter every 3 seconds.
Right? I am excited. I have been brought to joy, to tears, anticipation.
Especially for the Marvel nerds.
Yeah.
All right, let's go down the list. We have Loki Season 2, a
Can't
Daredevil TV show.
Right?
Like, that's
like
crazy.
A new one?
Yeah.
That's why. And it's
with
the
our
same.
people.
Yeah. Which I'm like, that's crazy.
Oh my gosh, there's so much. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which we knew. The new Ant-Man movie, it's confirmed, like King the Conqueror is coming in. And then we have these Avengers movies that are coming out. I mean, they announced like 3 or 4 years worth of content.
I'm just like, dang.
I want to go to Comic-Con. Have you ever been?
Me too. I haven't. It's hard. I think it's hard to get tickets.
You and I should make it happen next year.
I bet we could.
Could
we get a press pass?
Probably. Oh my gosh, should we set up? Should we set up like the Art of Costume podcast booth and meet our 10 fans?
Maybe not a booth, but let's look into press passes. Definitely.
It's so fun. Like I've done LA Comic-Con, which was like fun, but it's definitely not the same. It's just like more comic book focus, which is fine. I love comic books, but like, you know, they weren't announcing the new Black Panther movie at LA Comic-Con.
No, like, yeah, I've been to a bunch of like anime conventions, but I've never been to an actual like comic convention.
Well, maybe next year.
Maybe next year. We'll see. We'll see. Spencer, how was your week?
Oh, it was good. You know, just we're finally, hopefully, at the end of summer, I hope.
I know.
I'm done with all my weekend summer programs for students.
Nice,
because I do a lot of like fashion industry related workshops on the weekends, and I'm done for the summer. So hopefully that means less time in the outdoors. I'm just ready for winter.
I am not ready for winter, but I am ready for a change. You know who else was ready for a change, Spencer?
Tammy Faye Baker.
Yeah. After that small little nowhere town she grew up in. Spencer, what did we watch this week?
This week, we finally watched The Eyes of Tammy Faye, and I am so excited to talk about this movie with you, Elizabeth. I love it so much. I wish we did this episode earlier in the year, around the Oscars, but I literally watched it the night before the Oscars. So
I literally just watched it. I wasn't super interested in seeing it. I just wasn't interested. But then like all this like really good press came out about it, and you were like, oh my gosh, you have to watch this. And I was like, okay, I'll watch it for the podcast.
And
I really liked it. I've like watched or listened to some like true crime stuff about her and her husband. So like I went in with like not the greatest opinion of her, but her husband was evil, but she just seemed really oblivious.
Well, that's kind of like the whole point to the film. And there's a previous documentary about her as well. I believe it has the same name, The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
Oh.
And I mean, that's really what the whole, story is about is how for years, I mean, so many people had this like negative idea of who Tammy Faye Baker was because, I mean, there's a big population that watches, PTL and whatnot, but there was also a bigger audience that did not watch their show. So all we saw was the tabloids talking about, these two evil religious people who are taking advantage of people's money and, spending it on crazy stuff. But what people didn't really know was like the true story behind her. And I thought that this film really like brought her to life in such a beautiful way. And I loved it.
Yeah.
I've been a Tammy Faye fan for a long time. So I'm really excited to talk about this.
Would not have pegged you as a Tammy Faye fan, but Spencer, since you're such a fan, do you want to start us off with a summary?
Of course. In the 1970s, Tammy Faye Baker and her husband, Jim, rise from humble beginnings to create the world's largest religious broadcasting network and theme park. Tammy Faye becomes legendary for indelible eyelashes, her incredible singing, and her eagerness to embrace people from all walks of life. However, financial problems, scheming rivals, and a scandal soon threatens to topple their carefully constructed empire. That is The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
If you haven't seen it, get on to HBO Max.
Yeah, it's on there and also has some cool like behind the scenes features as well.
Oh, I should look at that. I didn't notice that.
It's only 15 minutes long, but it's worth the watch.
Going behind the wardrobe, we have director Michael Showalter and costume designer Mitchell Travers, who you will know from In the Heights, Late Night, and Hustlers.
This is like the perfect film for Mitchell. I kind of met him a little bit at the Costume Designer Guild Awards, and he's very fun and bright. So like when he does films like Hustlers and Eyes of Tammy Faye, it just has like a distinct Mitchell look.
I love that. This was definitely a distinct wardrobe. Mitchell talked to Below the Line about his prep for The Eyes of Tammy Faye. He said, one of the things I did on this movie was I assembled an enormous collection of every image I could possibly find of the Bakers, both Jim and Tammy. And then I started to compile them down into a 5-year span. What I wanted to do mostly was just understand how they evolved and changed with money, with fame, as their relationship ebbed and flowed with children, with influence, with power, with scandal. So he was like, let's get it all in there. Let's pack this wardrobe full of everything.
Yeah, because the film really follows such like a big part of her life. I mean, it goes from the 70s to the 90s. So that's a lot of costume, a lot of influences, a lot of stuff. And also because she was on television all the time on the PTL, and then also just, covered in media a lot, Mitchell didn't want to make her like into a character. He talked to Awards Daily. He said, I felt that we were taking a look at a woman who was covered by the media in an excessive nature. We owed it to her. She was very careful about her image, and she was careful as to what she was wearing in front of the press. I wanted to know what was going through her mind when she got ready for those key moments. I studied her pretty obsessively to figure out why she was getting dressed in those ways. She lived on camera. I felt it was important to get those little details as correct as I could. I had a big responsibility to follow her lead in those key moments. It was also important to deviate a little bit to tell her story in moments that weren't covered by the press. So he was like, we gotta be honest about who she was and like respect, how she dressed, because she knew what she was doing, Tammy Faye, whether or not you think it was like, too much or like clownish. She knew exactly what she was doing every time she went on camera. Yeah, she was very detail oriented. The film really goes into this a lot, but she, her hair color, what she was wearing, her nails, her eyelashes, her makeup, everything was like very deliberate. She just had control of everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Spencer, we will get into that more after our break.
Can't wait.
Hi, this is Dan, audio engineer of the Blogcast. Just wanted to let you know that if you'd like to support the show, you can become a patron at patreon.com/theartofcostume. There we post unheard bloopers, highlights, and bonus episodes just for our patrons. Make sure to check out the description for all of our links. And thank you for all of your support.
Elizabeth, are you ready to dive into this beautiful world of Tammy Faye?
Absolutely, Spencer.
We start with this opening shot. The film's called The Eyes of Tammy Faye, so obviously the film opens with a shot of Tammy Faye's beautiful eyes and eyelashes. I can imagine your thoughts when the film started. You're probably like, okay.
I was just like, this is so 80s. Like... I love that, like, she was like, 80s makeup is perfect and I will never change. Like, she was just like, nope, this is who I am.
Well, she loved it. And the thing about Tammy Faye and Jessica Chastain, who is brilliant in this film, that's why she won lead actress this year at the Academy Awards.
Yes.
She said in an interview that, like, which I agree with her, Tammy Faye was always at an 11, or what I would say is like at a 100. Like, Tammy Faye was always doing the most. Yeah. Even when she was at her worst, she'd wake up and put on everything. Whenever she sang, it would be like a quiet song and she'd still be belting it out. And her makeup is just always, painted for like a crazy nightclub, even if it's 9 a.m. in the morning.
Absolutely, absolutely. But that is not how Tammy Faye always lived her life.
No. Those opening shots, they kind of make me anxious. I have a weird thing about like organized religion, but we won't dive into that. So like these opening scenes, I'm like, like it's like hot in this church. There's lots of brown and dark colors, yellows. Just the whole opening scenes, you're like, this feels so stuffy and uncomfortable. And it's pretty brilliant, actually.
It is. Because this is like the Midwest, like middle of nowhere, super charismatic church. And they really convey that while still like through the colors. The colors are so muted. And it's like, that's almost how she looked at her life. Like everything when she was a child was like, drained of color. Everything she wanted, she could not have.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because she like wasn't really allowed to participate like in the church activities.
Yeah.
So, and all these like muted colors. So then as she grows up, it's like color into everything. Like now that she has control of her life, she wants everything to be colorful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Her mother in these opening scenes.
Rachel, who is played by Cherry Jones, she does this character so well.
She does. But every time she opened her mouth, because she looks like really good throughout the whole thing. Like, even though they don't have a lot of money, she always looks like put together.
Yeah.
Every time she opens her mouth, though, I'm like, can you just like be supportive of your daughter for 2 seconds? That's why she's crazy.
She's just, she loves the church. She's trying to make up for what is considered a mistake, because she's divorced. Yeah. So she's not allowed to like bring her child anywhere or anything, but she still like has a lot of love and respect for the church. So she's wearing like a nice blouse that's very buttoned up very nicely. So that I think that's a lot of the inspiration to the character's costume.
Absolutely. But as soon as Tammy has control of her own wardrobe, it is cute.
It is cute. I love opening Tammy with the headbands. Oh, so cute.
That was me in middle school. Those headbands. I wore headbands all the time.
Yeah, just so cute. And I include a lot of photos of Tammy and Jim from like throughout their life. And like Mitchell Travers replicates them almost like to a T with like that characterization through costumes.
I feel like he just alters it to look good on Jessica Chastain, but it's as close to her as he could get.
Yeah.
But also, like, I see Tammy in this picture. Like, she's so cute. Like, how did he get her?
Well, like
he must have been charming because he's like, I don't know. He gives me bad vibes just from this picture.
Oh, Jessica Chastain said that there's a thing about Jim Baker, which, by the way, Jim Baker is still alive, and I think he might even still be on TV.
Yeah, he is.
But Jessica Chastain said that the thing about Jim that she thinks Tammy fell in love with him was that she felt like Jim could do anything. Like, anything he said he wanted to do, he could do. And actually, for a majority of their lives, I mean, he did. He did
exactly.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she was like, you know, that's kind of like a quality that any of us would like fall in love with in someone.
True. That's true. When it comes to her fashion in these early stages, though, Mitchell talked to Awards Daily. He said, from an early age, yes, she was very interested in fashion. She always loved getting dressed, even though she didn't come from the greatest of means. So it started with the transformative nature of makeup. She could almost apply confidence. It began with that, and as her resources and reach grew, she took it very seriously and wanted to look a certain way. It got carried away, of course. Tammy used to say that her shopping addiction was cheaper than a therapist. But that's very true. Like in these early scenes where it's like her clothes are kind of plain compared to what she will be wearing, her makeup really stands out.
Oh, yeah. She's beautiful. And we haven't even talked about Andrew Garfield yet.
Oh, yeah.
Andrew Garfield really went all the way with this role, too.
He did.
I always forget he's British until I watch an interview, and I'm like, oh. like that's not Jim Baker.
It's really weird. I forget he's British, too, because I also just watched Under the Banner of Heaven, where he plays a Mormon character from
Utah,
yeah. But yeah, like he does such a good American accent, and it's really funny. I saw him in an interview, and someone was like, "You play a lot of religious characters." They were like, "Are you religious? Like, what's happening here?" He's like, "I'm not religious. I just find these people fascinating." He's like, I don't know. I just don't get it.
Oh, he is so good at this role. And I just love his costumes too, because Andrew Garfield's character is like always like kind of put together. I mean, they're at like a religious Bible college. So
yeah,
they have to, I'm guessing they have to really be like put together at all times.
Yeah, pretty much.
I wouldn't know, but that's what I assume.
Well, it's also like the late 1950s, early 1960s. So everybody was a lot more put together back then. But they get their first TV show on what was it? What was the first channel they were on before PTL?
The 700 Club, right?
No, the 700 Club was the show he created, but it's just another Christian network where they have their kids show.
Yeah, I think this was just like the beginning of the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But I love these opening scenes. The puppet show is so cute. And Tammy and Jim look adorable. I mean, Andrew Garfield with this like bowl wig is so funny to me.
He's so funny. And her look is completely changed now. Mitchell talked to Below the Line about her, and he said, "No one can do Tammy like Tammy. So I really felt like she gave me an incredible arsenal to work from, and that she made such specific choices that I feel like no costume designer could ever get close to her styling. Sometimes it was best to just let her drive and follow her lead and get as close to some of her most iconic looks as we could." So I like what he said about like letting Tammy drive the costume design. Yeah.
It's a good point, though, because he's like, I can't be Tammy Faye, so let's just look at what she actually wore and just try to follow her lead.
Yeah, which is so true. And I love how he's like, she made very specific choices because this is the first scene where she's blonde. And it's kind of her first step into creating her look to please the audience, because that's what she wanted her look to do. And at the time, like, being blonde was super popular.
Yeah.
So she kind of like takes this first step into like pleasing other people by dyeing her hair blonde.
I love the opening scene. It's so fun. And I just love the puppets. And we're looking at pictures of like some for actual puppets too. Mm-hmm. Pretty scary.
Pretty? Yeah.
The dog puppet's a little much for me.
Old-timey puppets are just kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Just
we're not big
creepy.
Puppet fans over here.
I'm not.
Even if they're involved with like Andrew Garfield in a bathtub, still not a big puppet person.
No, that was creepy. That was creepy. But we keep on trekking as they get into this world of religious broadcasting.
We're introduced to one of our favorite guys, Vincent D'Onofrio, who's playing Jerry Falwell, the kingpin himself.
Love this man. So funny.
I don't know. This to me just feels very Vincent D'Onofrio, even still. Like he's playing Jerry Falwell of all people. Yeah. They just put a little wig on him and some glasses. But other than that, I'm like...
It's him I just love it. Through and through. I also love her outfit. Mitchell Travers said to Awards Daily, the color came from the classic pink and green mascara tube. There's a subliminal thing going on for some people when you pair those two colors together. It's the first moment where Tammy can meet a real somebody, and it's kind of a slap in the face of how that interaction goes. She wants to be at the big table. I wanted something bold there because she is literally pulling a chair to sit with these powerful men at the table. I loved that. I wanted to play with that subliminal messaging because for people who watch their mothers put it on throughout their life, it hits all the right notes. She is also in a sea of menswear. The colors are semi-inspired by Easter, but mainly wanted her to pull focus with her clothes.
That's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah.
And it is true. She is like literally right in the center of like the most like toxic men you could probably think
of. And she is being extremely bold. Like even today, especially in more like charismatic Christian circles, it's like the men do all the business, all the talking, and the wives are just supposed to like keep to themselves and just trust their husbands and pastors. Like they're not supposed to be at the big table. They keep themselves to themselves. So she's really like, this is a bold move. And why Jerry Falwell just like does not like her. Yeah. It's because she did not sit and keep her mouth shut.
Exactly. So gross. But yeah, I know exactly what mascara tube we're talking about too. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. I love that.
But they finally get to the PTL, their own channel.
I love this scene, the We Are Blessed scene. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to admit, I have a lot of these songs on my Spotify. I do not listen to like Christian music at all. But when Jessica Chastain or Tammy Faye sing it, I'm here for it. It's good.
It was so funny for me because it's like, these are still like songs that are sung in church. Like I grew up singing a lot of these songs in church. Yeah. They're super popular.
That's so funny. But we have like this Christmas scene and Tammy Faye is doing the most in this red. It's so good.
So Mitchell did like a combination of like vintage shopping and building things for her. But he said to Awards Daily that this Christmas jacket, he said, that was the first piece I bought for her. We didn't know there was a Christmas sequence when we started shooting, but I thought it was such a bizarre item of clothing. So he was like, this needs to be in there. Yeah. And then the opportunity arose for it to be in there.
Yeah. Please do a Christmas scene. I have the perfect jacket. And it's so right. And I think we're going to talk about this later too, but just seeing all the extras in the background too. Like, this costume design job was not an easy one.
No.
Because he had, the world's most dramatic costume people. And then there's like a ton of extras surrounding them at all times.
And it was pre-COVID, so like they weren't trying to limit how many people were, they're just like filled every single seat.
Yeah. And then props to Jim too. Like, he's wearing a tie that matches her. Yeah. Jim tries to match Tammy in the most Jim way that he can.
Absolutely. And then I love like just the montage of them being televangelists.
And just seeing all the different costumes that just kind of go by. Even if it's real quick, you're like, oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Different costumes, all the different hair. Tammy just talking about, this was one thing I'd kind of known about her, but didn't realize quite how, into talking about like current issues she was. And I'm like, man, if she had just not had a crazy husband and been left to like kind of like do her own thing, she would have been fantastic.
Yeah, well, she was not afraid to talk about whatever she felt like talking about, which was like so frowned upon. I mean, in this world that she lives in, people are like, what is she, why, how is this happening? Like all the time with Tammy Faye, and I love that about her.
She was just...
We're talking about the penis pump, might I add.
Yeah, which I love, because there's like, they have one just like on like a piece of like, I don't know, cardboard or something. And then her and the lady like operating it, they're just in like these beautiful pastel colors.
Right. That's so funny. The jewelry in this film is out of this world.
Out of this world. And then when she is showing her mother around the house, she has what I have to say is like the ultimate 80s outfit.
I love this costume. It's one of my favorites for sure. She's wearing like this light blue.
It's like a light teal.
Yeah, her hair is teased in all the right places, but she's wearing this jacket that has these like tassels coming off of it. It is one of the coolest jackets I've ever seen. It is so good. I just could look at it all day.
It's so good. It looks like it's either suede or micro suede. And like the fringe coming off it, the color blocking. It's wild.
It's so wild. It's also so Tammy Faye, and it works with the environment around her too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, this makes complete sense. It's so chic, actually. She's, like, quite the fashion icon at this moment for me.
She really is. Even her bedwear is so chic.
Right. Like that nightgown with, like, the butterfly cutout on the top of it.
Yes. I was like, Jim, how are you not paying more attention to your wife? Clearly, you were not interested.
She's done up at all times.
Yes. A whole time. I don't think you maybe see her without makeup once during this whole thing. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, because she has it like permanently done.
Yeah.
So
wild.
Not much.
Wild. And her music career, she like even in the recording studio, she's doing the most.
She sings that song Don't Give Up, which I love that song. It's intoxicating. And she's doing the most. Like, she's just like belting out these lyrics, wearing this bright blue outfit and this like hot pink belt. It's oh yeah.
And I love this dress because it's like this blue chiffon layover, this like bright pink. And it's like she has all the colors on, I feel like.
Yeah. And of course, like she's against like this like brown environment around her too. And she has one guitarist over there, the producer.
Her Nashville music producer.
Gary, I think his name was.
I don't remember. But whenever she is with Jim, the longer this is running, whenever she's on TV with Jim, she just looks kind of sad.
Yeah, I mean, Tammy Faye is always sad being around Jim, and something that the press was always picking up. There's this like idea that Tammy Faye she was always crying. Whenever she was sad, Tammy Faye would cry. That was like her thing.
Yeah.
Which understandably, I feel like I cry a lot lately too. But there's like this idea in the press that her makeup was always like running from all the crying. And like you can't actually find any like footage or pictures of her mascara ever running. Like it's permanently on there, people. So I'm glad that they didn't do any of that in this movie. But
me too.
Yeah, but from this point forward, things really spiral out of control. So I think we need a little break before we get into all this evilness.
Little breaky break. We'll be right back. Hello, Blogcast listeners. It's Elizabeth Joy Glass, co-host and producer of the Art of Costume Blogcast. If you're like me, you love to show your support with a comfy tee or tote bag. Well, now you're in luck and can show your support for the show and grab some sweet merch by heading over to theartofcostume.com/podstore. There you can buy some awesome TeePublic merch with the Blogcast logo, such as a shirt, sticker, tote bag, and a baby onesie for all your little costume mavens in the making. Thank you for all your support, and head over to the Art of Costume/Podstore for all our great merch. Spencer, are you ready to see some nice coats?
I love a nice coat. We talked about this with the Girls of Fish Netflix, actually, and I have coat envy. I just wish I could wear coats in Los Angeles. It's too damn hot.
Maybe you need to move, Spencer.
I mean, honestly, at this point, I'm ready to move because it's too hot.
It is too hot.
And
you're going to melt.
Not to use this time to talk about how so many of you are ignoring climate change, but a lot of you are ignoring climate change. And this,
yeah.
20 years from now, when we're all sitting in a Pacific Ocean, which is just a giant dry desert, I hope you all go back to this podcast and listen to me and say it's your fault. It's your fault, the reason that why we're turning into Mad Max Fury Road.
Right.
And we all know how that turned out.
Our actions have consequences, even if you want to ignore them. But Tammy Faye knows how to wear a coat. She knows how to put her daughter in a coat.
She does. This is, what Mitchell called her therapy sessions. Basically, she's, instead of going to actual therapy, she's like, I'm going to buy you all coats.
Yeah. Yep.
And we're all going to look good in them. Even Sherry Jones's character, Rachel, looks good in that coat.
She does. She looks so distinguished. And I love how Tammy recognizes that, even though her mother has hurt her deeply, she understands that her mother was also hurt deeply and is like, oh, we need to show her love and encouragement.
Yeah. I mean, Tammy tries to find the, love in all people. So she's like, yeah, my mom's wronged me, but I'm going to stand by her, which is probably why, she's with Jim for so long, too.
Yeah. So, and she's like, I will love her and put her in this fabulous coat. I love
so
how
good.
She's like, I look like a bear. And then, the longer she's looking at herself, she's like, it is quite nice.
Yeah. You look like a good bear. I want a cheetah print coat so bad.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind, Spencer.
Yeah. What I wish I could keep out of my mind is seeing any sort of bullying scene, especially this where
so
Tammy
sad.
Faye walks up all, she's all smiling being Tammy
And
Faye.
she looks good.
She looks great. She has this beautiful jacket on with the most exquisite 80s jewelry. She literally walks up all smiling and laughing for no reason. And she overhears like everyone talking about her and calling her a clown. And I just wanted to grab my laptop and rip it in two.
Yeah, like so mean for no reason. And like while Jim is not being mean or saying anything about her, it's like, you know, he agrees because he's not shutting it down. He's not like defending his wife.
He lets it happen.
He lets it happen and then creepily wrestles with his secretary man. That was like the one part I was like, how can you do that and not like wonder why people are spreading rumors?
Right. My eyebrows were going up too at first. I was like,
Yeah. It's like, no wonder Tammy is attracted to the hot music producer she works with. Me and Spencer were talking about this earlier. I was like, she needed to leave Jim and marry this man.
Yeah.
Like,
he's so cool. Gary for the win.
Gary for the win. I'm like, someone must have like seen something. Cause like, okay, this man, just because he drove your like in labor wife to the hospital because you would not pick up the phone does not mean they're having an affair. Like,
right. I mean, yes and no.
Yes and no. But like, I'm like, okay, they're clearly together all the time recording tracks.
Right.
Like
some
the chances. Some fire tracks. Clearly the chances of him being there when she went into labor were, you know what, actually pretty high.
Right.
The fact that you didn't immediately leave the set of your television show to drive your wife to the hospital, like what else was she supposed to do?
Elizabeth's heated right now. Jeez.
Yeah. Like your wife was having a baby. Like someone needed to drive her to the hospital.
Yeah, it was really frustrating. But Tammy looks good though.
She's so good.
I mean, her water's getting ready to break. She's at that stage in her pregnancy, but she's wearing like this. It's not exactly red. It's more like almost like a dark coral. This is like when she is. This is when she looks her best. Like, this is the pinnacle. This is when she's the most happy. And then it's all downhill. Yeah. From this moment on, it's just a spiral.
Yeah.
Can we just talk about her nails for a second, too?
Okay. So for my job, I can't have my nails done. So I envy people who have beautiful nails like this. But also, like, how do you live with nails that long?
I don't know, but honestly, I'm kind of jealous. Just for like a day, I want to know what's like to have like some really long claws.
Right. That's what acrylics are for. Yeah. Get some press-ons, Spencer.
Sure.
But yeah, this is when she looks her best, and he looks fine too. He has like he's such a like 80s like music producer. Like, I love his denim shirt and the jewelry. Like, I was like, yeah, you are a music producer.
Yeah, he looks real good. But then we have the spiral into madness. But Tammy Faye's still always wearing like lots of pink, wearing like big fluffy robes, and always carrying a Diet Coke. I just feel like I relate to Tammy Faye in a lot of this, you know. I mean, I haven't gone through the same stuff as her, but like, you know that feeling where you just want to lay in bed all day with a Coke and a fuzzy robe and just kind of like stare out the window.
Yeah.
But that robe was sickening. It's a very nice robe.
I want that robe with the feathers. Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh.
Perfect. Not perfect is Jim making her tell everybody about her almost affair.
Yeah, that's sick.
Like,
just making her cry on camera so they could get more money. Ugh.
So rude.
Like, get this picture off the screen.
I was like, Andrew Garfield. This is my he lost all. I don't dislike Andrew Garfield anymore, but like Jim Baker lost his Andrew Garfield points in the film.
Yeah, you are no longer the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah. No.
Actually, thinking about this look that she's wearing, crying on camera, though, it's giving me Rose from the Golden Girls vibes.
Yes. I really like this look, too, because it's plain, it makes her kind of blend into her surroundings. Yeah. And I feel like she's really trying to look more like, you know, the average viewer than she is trying to look like Tammy Faye. Oh my gosh,
yeah. She is going back to blonde, isn't she? Mm-hmm. She's trying to like, oh, that's awesome. I didn't even think of it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, you know, she wants them to like identify with her more in this moment. Because if she goes on with everything, they're going to be like, well, you're a rich woman with everything. Why should I feel bad that you had an affair?
Yeah. But then Jesus is taking her higher and higher, and she just rockets into like the 80s phase. It's just lots of glitter and sparkles and leg warmers and just everything just it gets very Tammy-fied.
Through the roof, the sequins, the rhinestones, everything. Mitchell talked to Below the Line about her ever-evolving look. He said, Jessica and I really collaborated very closely. This is a very specific woman, and I think there was always the risk of taking things too far or for things to become parody. Because, of course, I believe that's what the media did to Tammy Faye, is they took her into sort of a cartoonish place. We were always very careful to be honest about depicting a real woman, all sides of her. And so Jessica and I worked very closely to make sure that we had a good balance. We had to understand, of course, the prosthetics that were on, and I had multiple bodysuits that were made for her to change her body over the course of time. We were able to track down how her body changed with various weight gain, with surgeries, with becoming a mother. We wanted all of that to carry through and be honest about the changes that the real Tammy has gone through. It was almost like fitting a few different women, which it's like, that's like, you don't really notice it, but like, that's very true. Like, they change her body throughout the course of it. And yeah, that's like a whole different set of measurements with a bodysuit.
Yeah, there's a lot went into these looks, and Mitchell should have been nominated for an Academy Award.
He should have.
I wish we could go back to our Oscars episode and add this into it, because I don't know, the Eyes of Tammy Faye was just so good. And the hair, was it the hair team or the prosthetics team, makeup team, did win an Academy Award. So
they better have.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just, it's legendary work. And look at all the extras that are in this scene again.
Oh my gosh, insane.
There's so many.
There's so many of them. Speaking of the background, Mitchell had a very specific, you know, kind of storyline for them as well. He talked to Below the Line and said, the tough part for us wasn't just some big group of background that we could reuse all the time. Because when we first started seeing the audience members of the PTL, I wanted it to feel wholesome and friendly and inviting, like your favorite aunt and uncle in the audience or your grandparents. But then our stories start to become muddied and unclear. I wanted the same thing to happen with the audience. So we started to use sharper colors. It was almost like two different color palettes that we wanted to use. So every time we had a large group of background, it was like starting from scratch with them, because I had to serve such a specific purpose in our movie. It really was an enormous undertaking.
That's insane. I've never heard anyone talk about the background characters like that before. That's incredible. Just like the slow transition of the background characters. Like, who thinks of that? That's crazy.
Someone who should have been an Academy Award nominated costume designer.
Right. Oh, so good.
So good.
It's so impressive, all the background work. What's also impressive is Tammy Faye casually wearing like this huge white fur look just to go on a little drive to see a potential theme park, but like, you know, just another day.
Just another day. It also just clicked in my head that their developer is also that American guy from The Handmaid's Tale. Oh. That just clicked into my head for some reason. Because I was like, he's very familiar. And then all of a sudden, like, flipping onto this slide, I was like, wait, that's the American guy from Handmaid's Tale.
Right. I didn't realize that they actually built this theme park, and I think it's still open.
Is it? That's creepy.
I think so. Like at one point it was as popular. It was like not as popular, but it was like doing pretty good business, and it was like comparative to Disneyland or Disney World too. Like,
oh my gosh,
when it opened, like it was that popular.
In this scene though, Jim has a very different look, and Mitchell talked to Awards Daily a little bit about Jim. He said, Andrew and I both loved the boyishness to the character and how he dressed. There were a few scenes where he is making plans for the water park, and I wanted him to dress like Bob the Builder. I do think there is a part of Jim that wanted so much. I do think there is a part of Jim that wanted as much attention that Tammy was getting. It was a fun back and forth to dress them together. Based on my research on who was there at the time, Jim had a lot to say about what Tammy was wearing all the time. I thought that was an interesting insight because she wasn't subtle. Being a man in the Christian right, you have to do stuff in a certain way. It was interesting to play with the idea of wanting to get more attention, but then fitting in with everything around you.
That's real interesting. Yeah, he does have like a very boyish feel to him.
He does. And I love what he said about him wanting to look like Bob the Builder in this scene, because it is like very different from everything he's worn up to this point. And it's like he's always playing whatever role he's currently in.
Right.
And at this time, he needs this developer to believe like, yeah, he's someone who knows what he's doing.
He's always trying to fit in, Jim Baker. He's always like on the chase.
Absolutely. But Tammy just gets more fabulous as the years go on.
This brings us, though, to one of my favorite scenes that I was excited to see come to life. One of the reasons why there's like been so big a look recently into the life of Tammy Faye was, she was a part of this grouping with Jim Baker where she was known as like, they were this evil couple who took advantage of Christian people. But like that really wasn't the case 100%. Whereas, Tammy Faye used her platform to really elevate LGBTQ plus issues, which was, at the time, insane on a Christian television show. At the height of the AIDS epidemic, she had on Steve Peters, who was a current AIDS patient, where at this time, people wouldn't even be in the same room as AIDS patients, let alone breathe the same air. She brought him onto the show, and they had a real conversation, and, she broke down on tears talking about how it's the Christian duty to, like, love people for who they are and wrap your arms around them. And, from this point on, she really became like an icon to the LGBTQ community because from this point forward, she continued with this message and she never let it go until, her death in 2007. And I thought it was so cool to see that Jessica Chastain brought Steve to one of the premieres of the film.
Yeah.
Which is so cool.
I love that. This is kind of like what makes me sad that she was connected to her husband.
Yeah.
Because if she could have been like her own person and like really promoted this in the Christian world, I feel like the American Christian society would be really different now.
Yeah. But then looking back at like the original recording and how they did it in the film, it is to the T. It is 100% accurate. Everything from the hair, it's just down to the look. It's right on.
Yeah. I love that you can kind of see when you like look at like their two the two pictures side by side. This is one place where you can see like he really tailored Tammy Faye's look to Jessica Chastain's body, because it's not exactly the same, but it has the same like essence as her original interview, but just in a look that's flattering for Jessica Chastain.
Right. Like if you were to take a quick glance at it, you're like, oh, that's exactly the same. But when you look closely, of course, there's some details that are different. But other than that, like it's very, very close and such a beautiful scene.
Yeah. I love that she brought him to the premiere.
Yeah. Jessica Chastain is
great. Cool. But things get very not cool for Tammy.
No.
Oh, man.
And Jim's starting to not look so cool himself. I mean, he does not age well throughout this film.
No. He doesn't. This whole scene where he just like explodes at her, and it's like, dude, she doesn't deserve this. Like, she supported you through everything.
Yeah, give it a rest, Jim. But Tammy's like wearing this like almost all golden look though. Even when she's crying, she's still like looking fabulous, you know.
I have almost this exact outfit.
You should wear it.
I should. I got it like from Goodwill when I was like in middle school, and I called it my Golden Goddess Barbie outfit.
I like it.
But things changed rapidly from this point on. I do appreciate that Jim did do I apologize for my actions TV sitting.
I didn't like those. I apologize for our actions.
Oh, yeah. That was the one part I didn't like.
Because I was like, leave her alone. Like, and of course, like, he has her sing at the end. And it's just like, oh, Jim, you're the worst. But I love the scene, though, because, like, looking at the actual recording, they are wearing almost the same exact outfit, too. It's crazy. It
is crazy.
Once again, just, like, looking at this, we were watching it now, actually. It's, like, so spot on.
He's, like, letting, her lead.
If y'all want to see, like, some real videos of Tammy Faye and Jim, like, it's all over YouTube, because this isn't that too far in the past, so you can still find some interesting videos.
And they were on television, like, every single day.
Yeah.
At, like, the height of their fame and influence. So there is plenty. There is plenty. I love it's not just her who, like, looks exactly the same. Like, he looks exactly the same, too.
Yeah, I mean, actually, if anything, like Jim Baker's looks compared to like Andrew Garfield's looks, those are almost more close to, reality than Tammy's looks, because Jim, that was a pretty easy character, it seemed like, for Mitchell Travers to replicate, because he got it down pretty good at every single time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Also in these end scenes, I couldn't quite pinpoint which pair of earrings Mitchell is talking about to Awards Daily, but there is a pair of earrings that he used right in the beginning of like their like rise to fame, and then also at the very end, because he wanted to kind of connect like her kind of like rise to fame and her kind of like fall from grace, really.
Yeah.
By using like the same pair of earrings, and how she kind of like almost like gets back to reality after this. But also he said to Awards Daily about all of her jewelry, he said, "I would take some of the plastic jewelry that Tammy wore. It's hard to find the matching items with the bracelets, with the earrings. So anytime I was able to find originals, I wanted them. My mom and grandmother told me that I should have called them."
That's funny.
It's so funny.
We have it all, Mitchell. You don't have to go far to find this stuff. But I love the the Nightline interview, because it's another one of those scenes where it's like ripped directly from, ABC News. Tammy's wearing this red shoulder pad look, which is basically, it could be the same dress, honestly, that the actual Tammy Faye wore. And same for Jim. I mean, he's wearing the same plaid shirt. It's even worn the same, like on his body.
Yeah, absolutely. I love seeing her in this original footage, because whenever she's not talking, she's clearly so done with the situation.
It's so evident. And then even in the film, when the interview stops, she breaks into tears. Like, she's just like, I cannot do this. This is ridiculous.
Although I had no idea she sang at the courthouse. This is wild.
Remember, it's not over till it's over.
It's over.
I love this scene too. I love that even in the darkest time, she was always trying to bring joy whenever she could. Even when she knew, like, it's over, Tammy Faye. It's over. you know, but she's still like, I'm going out with a song because I still have some fans out there who love me. Just want to leave them with like a little bit of some sort of hope. This is, again, one of those other looks that was basically ripped directly from the news, from the press moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's that red coat with like the white and black polka dot shirt underneath. It's so good.
It's so good. I also love her look. This is like the early 2000s, right? At the end?
That kind of ends in the 90s era.
Late? Okay.
Yeah, so we're in 90s right now.
But I love she's gone back to like kind of her original hair color. She's updated her. She keeps her wardrobe current, but her makeup is exactly the same.
Right. 90s Tammy is kind of like a sad Tammy at first, but she's still not losing sense of herself. She's still going to wear exactly what she wants, her favorite hair, but it does feel a little bit more darker, I would say. It's not as bright as you would usually expect. And that's even more evident when she goes to prison to visit Jim. I mean, she's wearing black, which was shocking to me.
Well, is this when she says, like, no, our marriage is over, right?
Yeah, she's like, did you sign the divorce papers, Jim? Jim.
Her voice was so perfect.
It's so cute.
But then she gets asked to sing. And this is a perfect ending.
I loved it.
This is all she ever wanted to do.
Right. She's like...
was sing and look good. She just wanted to sing and look good. That's why she should have married the Nashville producer. She probably would have gotten a Grammy.
Probably. I love this scene. It's such a perfect ending. It's also funny though, because clearly most of it's like in her head. Like the entire background is not real. But it goes again to like that idea that Tammy Faye gave 100% at everything.
Yeah.
So like this is what she feels like when she's singing, like the entire gospel behind her and everything. She literally is performing like she's at, you know, Caesar's Palace right now. Yeah.
She is.
She's wearing like this, what looks like this diamond encrusted white gown with this like big neck piece. It's just so beautiful. And it's just like this tiny little audience that's probably like, what is going on? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, that was so good.
It's fun. It's just so colorful. It is like a comedy in ways, you know, like I was laughing at several points. I don't know if it's
a tragic comedy.
A
comedy of errors.
Tammy Faye ended up passing away in 2007. She struggled with cancer for, I think, like almost a decade. But like, I know in like the ending part of her years, like she did kind of, I won't say like became like a, you know, huge celebrity or anything, but like she was singing, and she was even on like the RuPaul show at one point. Like, you know, she did like a lot of different things toward the end of her life. So I hope that in the end she was happy, but
yeah, who knows? It was funny because I was watching this in my living room. My dad used to work, he's a graphic designer, and he used to do work for this Christian magazine. And he said they interviewed their son, or he didn't interview, but they did an interview on him, Jim and Tammy's son. And he was like, I was shocked because he was just like the super like tatted up pastor guy.
That's funny.
He was like, yeah, I would not have expected that to be like Jim and Tammy's son. But like, he was just like super tatted up and working with like, you know, the people the church usually frowns upon.
Right. Well, Elizabeth, that brings us to the end of Eyes of Tammy Faye. But before we go, we have to play our favorite game.
We do.
Let's do it.
The one costume to rule them all.
Elizabeth, why don't you go first this week?
All right. My one costume to rule them all was the red and white number she wears in the very beginning when she first tells Jim that she's pregnant. It's the first time we see her with like that platinum blonde hair. She's like, it's the very beginning of their career. She's like super happy, full of hope. And it's the first like time we see her using her wardrobe and her hair and her makeup to really like make an impression, to like please the audience. And it's like her first step into that world.
Yeah, it's very cute. And also, like, we didn't really say this earlier, but it's also like one of the only times she's wearing like a costume, it feels like, because once we get later into her life, like the thing she's wearing, that's just her wardrobe, you know, like she's like, I'm wearing this on stage today. But at that time, it was like, this is a costume for your puppet show.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's adorable.
Spencer, what was your one costume to rule them all?
Mine, I fell in love with that fringe jacket she wears. It's so good.
I will say that is such a look.
It is such a look. It's paired with that blue, and it's like kind of like an ombre dark blue. The hair is teased to the gods. Big, huge earrings, necklaces, bracelets, the hot pink nails, the rings. Everything is just, it's all over, and I love it. It's just a perfect look. Perfect.
That
is
such
jacket.
A good look.
I need that jacket. I probably would never wear it, but I need it.
You do need that jacket, Spencer.
And with that, we are at the end. Elizabeth, what are we watching next week?
Spencer, we have come to the end of Hot Girl Summer, but I thought we should go out with a Hot Girl Summer flick to rule them all.
That's quite the understatement.
Next week, to close out our Hot Girl Summer series, we are watching Midsummer.
Yes, I'm so excited. I love this movie. Elizabeth, have you seen this movie?
I have not. Honestly, it was a movie I never intended to watch. So much so that I listened to a podcast about it because I was interested to know about it, but I was like, I don't really want to watch this. So I pretty much already know what happens, but I've never seen it.
Well, you're in for a treat. It's so fun, very cute, very lovely.
I'll be honest. I'm ready to see that flower gown in action, if nothing else.
Right. You're going to love it. And I know everyone listening's probably really hyped for this episode. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be so much fun.
Thank you all so much for listening. If you loved this episode and you want to tell us what your one costume ruled them all from the Eyes of Tammy Faye, make sure you hit up our voicemail number 626-515-1826 and tell me why you thought that fringe jacket was the one costume to rule them all, because we all know that's where it's at.
If you disagree and, you know, maybe don't want to leave a voicemail, you can also just hit us up at the Art of Costume Pod on Instagram. Or if you want to see some of our fun TikToks, we are at the Art of Costume. If you want to listen to our beautiful voices and extra time every month, you can become our patron at patreon.com/theartofcostume. Or if you're like, it is too hot out here, I need a t-shirt, you can check out theartofcostume.com/podstore. Get a Art of Costume Blogcast t-shirt.
Yeah.
And if you really, really love us, please leave us just a little 5-star text review on Apple Podcast and or Spotify. We would really appreciate it.
Thank you all so much for listening. And remember, Jesus loves you.
Jesus loves you. Have a fantastic week.
Bye, everyone.
The Art of Costume Blogcast is hosted and produced by Elizabeth Joy Glass and Spencer Williams. Our audio engineering and editing is done by Dan White. Follow us on Instagram at The Art of Costume Pod or visit theartofcostumeblogcast.com for all Blogcast updates. If you want to support the show, go to theartofcostume.com/podstore. Or you can head over to patreon.com/theartofcostume for some bonus content. For more costume reviews, deep dives, and interviews, head over to theartofcostume.com, a blog dedicated to highlighting the best in costume design.
1 second. My computer's being slow because I have The Sims playing in the background. Sorry.